Okay, we're reading from the Srimad Bhagavatam. This is the third canto, chapter 9, text 37. So, translation. When you were contemplating whether there was a source to the stem of the lotus of your birth, and you even entered into that stem, you could not trace out anything. But at that time, I manifested my form from within. So the purport today, Srila Prabhupada. The personality of Godhead can be experienced only by His causeless mercy, not by mental speculation or with the help of the material senses. Material senses cannot approach the transcendental understanding of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He can be appreciated only by submissive devotional service, when He reveals Himself before the devotee. Only by love of Godhead can one know God, and not otherwise. The personality of Godhead cannot be seen with the material eyes, but He can be seen from within by spiritual eyes, opened by the ointment of love of Godhead. As long as one's spiritual eyes are closed due to the dirty coverings of matter, one cannot see the Lord. But when the dirt is removed by the process of devotional service, one can see the Lord without a doubt. Brahma's personal endeavor to see the root of the lotus pipe failed. But when the Lord was satisfied by his penance and devotion, He revealed Himself from within, with no external endeavor. Om Jnana Timirandasya Gyananjana Salakaya Chakshus Unmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Sahitam Yena Bhutale Swaramupuktamaya Dadanti Swapatatikam Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaur Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Panchakopa Tubhischa Kripasindu Vevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Let's just read the verse one more time. When you were contemplating whether there was a source to the stem of the lotus of your birth, and you have entered into that stem, you could not trace out anything. But at that time, I manifested my form from within. So Prabhupada gives a very wonderful purport here. Now how we can actually understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead. It's not by any material means, but we actually have the potency to do it. Just as Lord Brahma had the potency, we can imagine Lord Brahma, what a great personality and what great potency he has. Compare his senses and his ability and his body and his intelligence, what he can actually do. But he was in a bewildered state. And besides this lotus flower, everything was dark. And he was actually aware that he was lost. He didn't know what was going on. So he climbed all the way down the lotus, climbed all the way back up. And in this verse it describes he even went inside the lotus. But still he couldn't find anything. And this is our position. We are in an ignorant state of life. That's why we pray Om Jnana Timirandasya. So we're conditioned souls in the material world. We're bewildered, we're infatuated by the objects of the senses. So because of that, we don't even consider who we are, where we're coming from, or the purpose of life, or even how to achieve the purpose of life. But again, those who actually have these questions, then they try to do it by their own mental capacity. Speculation. And as we mentioned, Lord Brahma's mental, essential, physical capacity is trillions of times greater than our own. And yet he wasn't even successful. Because why? He was trying the ascending process, trying to acquire knowledge. And if Lord Brahma, he couldn't do it, then what hope do we think we have? And we see the scientists, they try to figure out something, they see something, and they speculate how it came about. They may be able to adjust a few things, or make very fanciful theories and books on the origins of life, the source of creation. But it's all the ascending process, and it doesn't really help anyone. They're just fanciful theories. So Lord Brahma, he couldn't figure it out, so how can we? And we have this greatest personality in the universe. He is creating planets. He's creating actually all the living beings in the universe. And the living entity ourselves, we can't even understand what's taking place on this tiny Earth planet, or to speak of other planets in the universe. In fact, the scientists, they can't even figure out what's going on in their own bodies, or to speak of going on in their own minds. So how could these scientists and scholars understand the cause of all causes? So Lord Krishna here is telling Lord Brahma, it's only through this descending process, which means when the Lord is pleased, then you can actually understand the absolute truth. So here, Lord, in many different pastimes, we see Krishna is instructing Lord Brahma personally. And we see in this pastime, Lord Brahma is still a little bewildered by Krishna. He's very difficult to understand. Sometimes, he comes and displays himself just like a little boy playing with his friends and just eating in a very natural way. How could this be Krishna? So Lord Krishna actually instructs Lord Brahma in many different ways. Here, we could see that only by Krishna's mercy can we transcend this suffering. And that is, the path of bhakti. We have to have that loving devotion. Bhakti mama vijananti. That's how we understand the truth. And the truth means that it's our relationship with him through devotional service. So that's bhakti. That's what pleases Krishna. And in reciprocation, he will reveal himself to us. Prabhupada mentions in this purport that we actually have spiritual eyes. We have spiritual senses. The soul has these things, but due to the dirt of the material life, they're closed, they're covered. So through this gross sense gratification, or through this guru, the guru is actually showing us how to get freedom from this gross sense gratification, this gross dirt. So by guru, shastra, and sadhu, then through those means we can actually see. And that's possible by Krishna's mercy. So we must understand how to receive Krishna's mercy. And that's where it's coming from. The shastras, the guru, the scriptures. And then one can see through the eyes of the scriptures, and you can see things as they are. In the beginning, we may think, it's inconceivable, so theoretically we may understand, something beyond. But it must be inconceivable, because this is written by Krishna. This is Krishna's pastimes. I mean, if we wrote the scriptures, or if, we understood everything, then we'd be just as good as God. Or it might as well be just that we write the scriptures. So that's not possible. But foolish people, they read these things and they say, oh, it's impossible. Lord Brahma lives 311 trillion years. There's matcha as a fish, it's hundreds of thousands of miles long. There's this kurma, this turtle, it's got a back that's hundreds of miles long. There's Braha, it comes as a boar and he dives into the water and he carries the earth on his tusks. Or what to speak about all the creation in the material world. We hear about the progenitors like Kashyapa and his wife. They're producing not only human beings, but they produce reptiles and insects and trees and all kinds of different things. But we can't be like Dr. Frog, who thinks that the whole existence is just in his little well, and he measures everything by the size of the water in his well. That's a doctrine we can't understand. But the only way, in the beginning, it may be theoretical, but if we have faith, and we understand, actually, Krishna can do everything. He's wonderful. We can appreciate how he can lift a mountain on a little finger. So this doubt is actually described in the Bhagavad Gita that the doubting soul, there's no happiness in this world or the next. But the nature of the heart, of the soul, is to have faith. Just like children, you tell them all these amazing stories, they're like, wow, yeah, nice, tell me more. Because they're pure and innocent, they actually accept it out of faith. They have faith in it, and then they get pleasure in the inconceivable. So similar, the soul is very innocent, it's pure, and it's natural to have faith in something more powerful than oneself. And we get this purification by reading Srimad Bhagavatam, by reading Krishna book. So every day in our temple, Srila Prabhupada established Srimad Bhagavatam class that we read. So we have to make these presentations very, seems like these days, scientific, logical, make them very nice, so that we could bring that natural state of having faith that's already there, bring it back out again by hearing these pastimes of Krishna. And we see how everything is actually connected with Krishna, the absolute truth. This is how Krishna revealed himself to Lord Brahma. He revealed himself through all the different calves and boys that Lord Brahma had tried to steal from Krishna to test him. But when he came back, he saw that actually all the boys are still there. Wait, I thought I hid him in a cave. So he was bewildered, and then Krishna immediately manifested all his Vishnu forms from all the different boys and calves and everything. It's amazing. So this is Krishna. So absolute truth means that we have to understand our relationship with the source of everything. And ultimately means understanding relationships. How anything has a relationship with the cause of all causes. And that's actually what they call the absolute truth, is understanding our relationship with Krishna. That's the real truth. And knowing anything without a relationship with God, that's simply ignorance. Because Krishna, he's the supreme truth, Satyam Param Dhimahi. So we have the absolute truth, is actually everything, and the relative truths, they can only be understood in relationship with that absolute truth. So that's real knowledge. Because relative means that it's depending on something else beyond itself. But absolute means it's completely independent. It's completely full in himself. And that's Krishna, the absolute truth. Everything is emanating from him. No truth can exist outside of him. So it's like we're very dependent, but he's not dependent on anything. But everything else is dependent on him. That's the absolute truth. We experience relative existence here, but there's no existence except its relationship with its source. And that's the greatest of all sciences. That's what teaches the truth, is our relationship of ourselves, the relationship of the material world, of everything with Krishna. And all this can be understood simply by Krishna's mercy. So, let's see here. Let's go to the next one. So we see how Krishna, he actually comes in many different forms. And there's a nice lecture given by Srila Prabhupada about how Krishna, he can actually come in so many different ways. And this is his pastime, his pleasure, he does it. We see here there's different animal forms, he comes in different human forms, all kinds of different things, just for his pleasure. And it's not that he has to come to it by karma, but he actually comes to it out of his pleasure. So let's hear what Srila Prabhupada has to say. There's a little short clip here about some stories Srila Prabhupada talks about understanding how Krishna comes. This is from a lecture that he gave on Lord Raha's Appearance Day.
Krishna, Govinda, Adi Purush, the original person, he is taking various forms, Rama, Adi Murtishu, especially Kri Rama, Parshurama, Balarama, and Dasurathi Rama. So this Rama means enjoyment. And the Krishna's enjoyment, it does not mean Krishna has appeared as he born. It does not mean he's separated. Everything is Ananda Chinmaya Rasa Pratibhavika. Sometimes a big man becomes a horse. It is There is a very nice, interesting story that the big Prime Minister, Gladstone, English Prime Minister Gladstone. Yes. So, somebody came to see him for an interview. So the servant informed the visitor that the Prime Minister is now busy, you have to wait. So he was waiting, was big man. So 1 hour passed. So he became enthusiastic. So with the little opening of the door, he wanted to see how this man is engaged and waiting for 1 hour. So he saw that the Prime Minister has become a horse taking his grandchild on the back and is playing like a horse. And the important visitor is waiting for 1 hour. So this is enjoyment. The Prime Minister is not the horse, but he is enjoying taking his grandchild on the back, and he was playing like a horse. And the grandchild was hut. This was his engagement. So similarly, because he has become the horse of his grandchild, he is not horse, he is enjoying. That is enjoyment.
So this gives us some insight about Krishna. He appears for his own pleasure. It's not his karma that he comes. So we can see all the different incarnations that Krishna comes as: the fish, the turtle, so many different forms, a lion, a beautiful boy. He comes as Lord Chaitanya. So it's very nice. So this is Keshavadrita Raha Rupa. It doesn't mean that he is a Braha or he is a crocodile or he is something like that. He's everything, but it's not by his karma. But if we become a crocodile, that's our karma, that's our punishment. So we're now human beings, and in our next life, we may become something else, an animal, according to our karma. We're forced by the laws of nature. So that's our karma. But in this example, Srila Prabhupada's giving, that horse Krishna comes, that is his enjoyment. But if we come in a horse, then that's our karma. So we should understand like that. When Keshavadrita, Kurma Sarida, and Braha Sarida, he's not forced by karma. So he's self-sufficient, as we mentioned. He's the absolute truth. And everything is Krishna's enjoyment. And we're also seeking enjoyment because we're his part and parcel. Anandamayo Vyasat. So Krishna or his part and parcel, the same quality. Krishna seeking enjoyment, and we're also seeking enjoyment. And we can enjoy together in the spiritual world without any hamper, without any impediment. And that's the whole purpose why he comes in his different forms, to display himself, to attract us, to teach us, so we could get absorbed in him, and therefore become connected with him, and ultimately enjoy with him. This is so important. So this is Krishna's pastime here. He comes at this war, supposedly, and he likes to have a good fight, with people in the material. And he teaches us, there's so many lessons that he teaches us. We see how, if you're a materialistic person like this demon, the brother of Hiranyakashipu, Hiranyaksha, he's so much in the body concept of life that he thinks he's his body and he's the controller and enjoyer of everything, and everything in his way will be slaughtered and killed. But that difference in spiritual life is we're not at all concerned with this body. And that's the beginning of spiritual life. But as long as we're interested in this dead lump of matter, without any information of the spirit soul within, as we're talking about today, then that's mature life. So that's the difference between mature and spiritual life. And one who's in ignorance, he doesn't have any knowledge of the spirit soul. He identifies with his body, trying to enjoy life like this big demon. And he becomes inculcated and inculcated. Life after life, enjoys in different ways. Trying to enjoy, actually, trying to eat, sleep, mate with family. So that's what happens. So we go through this birth and death, cycle after cycle, doing the same things again and again according to our karma. And eventually we may get it, we'll understand, if we actually become sober, and we say, this is actually a diseased condition. I'm eternal. Nahanyate hanyamani sarere. Why am I put into this condition of birth, death, old age, and disease? So what is this healthy condition? So if we're sober, then we'll want to become healthy. It's like a tuberculosis disease we have. We're restricted. We can't enjoy like if you're healthy. So this is what we have to understand, otherwise our life will be lost. So Krishna comes, he has many leelas, activities. He's not different than his activities, actually, he's absolute. And on occasions like today, we can hear about his activities. You can hear many lectures given by Srila Prabhupada. You can read the chapter of Lord Raha in the Srimad Bhagavatam. And this is how he plays in different ways. Mina Sarira as Raha, Sarira, Korma Sarira. And it's all Ramadi Motisa Kala and Yamena. There's hundreds and thousands of incarnations of Krishna. Advaitam, Achutam, Anadam, Anantarupam. And just like you see the ocean waves here, you can't count all these waves. It's continually going on and on. And similarly, Krishna's incarnations, they're going on eternally. So many. So if we take this opportunity to hear Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu about Krishna's leelas, his activities, and if we do that, then we'll be liberated. Not like the Mayavadis, they think, I'm God too. They're also demons. But we have to take to Krishna's personal activities, and there will be newer and newer, and many different opportunities about Krishna's wonderful pastimes. And that way we'll actually get that ananda, that pleasure. So the Supreme Lord, he enacts these pastimes by showing himself in innumerable aspects of his personality. Whereas for ourselves as a jiva, we're forced to accept different bodies due to our karmic reactions. And that's drilled into us so many times by Srila Prabhupada, how we're different from Krishna. There's a nice quote from the Narada Pancharatra. It says, the marginal potency who is spiritual by nature, who emanates from the self-cognizant sambit energy, and who becomes tainted by his attachment to the most mature nature, we're called the jiva. So that's, again, we're understanding our position. We're an expansion of Krishna. So we're distinguished from Krishna's independent Vishnu expansions. By his constitutional position, that's the margin between spirit and matter. And that's explained in the Mahavraha Purana. We're talking about Lord Raha here. So, hold on. So, this is, we can understand Krishna's expansions. It's said here that the Supreme Lord is known in two ways, in terms of his plenary expansions and his separated expansions. So between the plenary expansions and their source of expansion, there's never any essential difference in terms of either their capabilities, forms, or situations. So the separated expansions, on the other hand, they possess only minute potency, being endowed only to a small extent with the Lord's powers. So that's our position. And even Lord Brahma, even though he had so many powerful endowments, still he's very tiny also compared to Krishna, as we showed in that pastime where Lord Brahma stole the calves. So there's also a nice quote here that says, the conditioned soul in this world appears as if covered by matter, internally as well as externally. Externally, gross matter surrounds him in the forms of his body and environment, while internally, desire and aversion impinge upon his consciousness. So we have to understand our position in that way. We're covered, not only externally, but internally, by our consciousness, by our desires, by our wanting to think separately and be separately from Krishna, and try to understand things in our own way, trying to figure out things by our own abilities, ascending process, instead of actually understanding the descending process. So this is why Prabhupada comes, and we get engaged in devotional service. In fact, if we worship Krishna in a deity form while living in a holy place, and Prabhupada created so many different places in the world, you actually become very dear to Krishna. And we should pray to him to please free us. Your partial expansion is Maya, because you're the abode of supreme bliss, and please direct me to your lotus feet. So these are the prayers of the great devotees, and we should take up prayers like this so that we can actually, be in connection with Krishna. And this is Krishna and his Leelas, how he is very much connected to everything in all living entities. He supports everything. And this is so much graphically described in this particular pastime of Lord Raha, how he's very concerned about his creation. And this is what he comes. He comes himself to actually take part in it and protect the living entities, not only physically, but also, subtly and spiritually. He does that. And as we mentioned, there's just hundreds and thousands of these incarnations everywhere. So this is Krishna and his different pastimes. So we have this one idea that we want to actually become connected with Krishna. That's our purpose. There's a nice verse from the Brahma Samhita. Anara chinmaya rasa pratibhavitavis tabirya eva nija rupataya kalabi goloka eva nivasati akilatma bhutto govindamadi pusham tamaham bhajami. So we can dance with Krishna in Goloka Vrindavan, and they're both enjoying. Krishna's enjoying, and his devotees are enjoying. We can also enjoy. But if we don't want to enjoy independently of Krishna, or try to imitate Krishna, or try to become Krishna, then that's Maya. And that's what the mature world means, enjoying spirit. We have that enjoying spirit. But if we actually want to become Krishna or try to enjoy independently from Krishna, then we're completely in Maya. So we should try to enjoy with Krishna. That's the aim of life. So Krishna comes. He actually personally appears and exhibits his enjoying love in Vrindavan. He brings his friends, his girlfriends, his boyfriends, everything, his father, mother. And he shows that the enjoyment which you're seeking, that's there in the spiritual world with me. See how I'm enjoying? So he shows how he's enjoying. And so he's trying to attract us. And if we have our brain clear, that if we enjoy with Krishna, then we can enjoy and dance in paternal love and conjugal love, a friendly playing with boys, with animals, in the garden, in the forest, in the water. So many different ways of enjoying with Krishna. Everything is in there in the spiritual world. All is sporting, but it's spiritual. So this is Krishna Lila. That's what we want, the Ananda Chinmaya Rasa Pratibhavitavis. So we're trying to seek this pleasure in the mature world, but it's imitation. It's not really enjoyment. But that basic principle of enjoyment is there. And here it's imitation, love between young boy, young girl. But where does that come from? It actually comes from Krishna. Otherwise, how can it come? It's not possible. So Krishna is also enjoying there. The gopis, young girls. Krishna's young. He has an exchange with his father, his sons, his mother. There's an exchange of love between friend, between animal and man. Just like we keep so many animals, Krishna also has calves like that, and sometimes other animals. So the same thing is there. Here we're just imitating Krishna. Otherwise, everything is there in the spiritual world. But we're mistaking. Here it's karma phala vaidya. But in the spiritual world, there's no inebrities. But here it's full of inebrities. You see Krishna enjoying with the gopis. There's no inebrity there. There's no pregnancy, there's no abortion. Everything is beautiful. But in the material world, the love turns to lusty desires, and it turns into so many difficulties. And that's what it means. Enjoyment here in the material world just means so many sufferings. But in the spiritual world, there's nothing but pleasure. So that's the difference between the material and the spiritual world. So all glories to Srimad Bhagavatam, all glories to Lord Raha, all glories to Lord Krishna's mercy, so that he comes and actually gives us the ability to see him and awaken our spiritual eyes from within by giving us the process of devotional service so that we can purify the dirt, the contamination from without and from within. And therefore we can enter into Krishna's pastimes. So thank you very much. I think I'll stop here. If there's any comments or questions, we can have them now.
Okay. Prabhu, as far as I know, I just unmuted everybody on.
You went over.
So that went smooth. Beautiful visuals. Nice presentation. Thank you.
For us.
Does anyone have any questions or comments? I think I unmuted everybody. Didn't I?
Okay.
Somebody at least say Hari roll, so I make sure that I am muted. If you're somebody saying something, just put it in the chat. You can hear us.
By everybody's name on the attendee list, they're all. Oh no.
Sounds like Windsor is going. Okay. Does anyone have any questions or comments?
Ramananda, just you and I are me.
We're the only ones that are unmuted?
Yeah, everybody else is.
Wow, let's see. Over to the now. Audio. No.
Get it?
As far as I know, everybody's unmuted. But it looks like nobody else has a green mark by their mic. Oh, and I see over in Start Meeting, there's some accounts going over there. Anyway, I'm sorry, bro. I don't know. At least we saw and heard your presentation. I don't know what I'm doing wrong here.
Okay, great. And you sound in Start. Listen.
Yeah, so sorry for I don't know what's wrong. Theoretically, we should be able to hear everybody else.
They could try to type it.
Kandita's mic just lit up. Oh, my mic doesn't work. Anyway, thank you, Prabhu. All glories to your service. All glories to Lord Varaha.
Thank you, Ramananda. All glories to your service. And all glories to Prabhupada.
All right, thank you, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
All glories to Prabhupada. Hari, Hari. Oh.
Granga.